Survey of Mesechta Succah. We're up to Mesechta Succah in our Shas survey. There are obviously a number of great sugyas that we can learn in Mesechta Succah. The first perek deals with the building of a sukkah. The second perek deals with the mitzvah of sitting in a sukkah. The third and fourth chapters deal with the mitzvah of the four species, and there's a lot of great material there. And then in the last perek, it actually deals with a lot of the halachos pertaining to the function in the Beis Hamikdash on Sukkos, and some of the laws pertaining to halal and the davening of Sukkah on Sukkos towards the end of the Mesechta. So there are obviously a number of great sugyas to learn in Mesechta Sukkah, and it's hard to narrow them down. I chose one Mesechta, one sugya that we're going to see actually really gets to the heart and core of how we are supposed to approach the mitzvah of sitting in the sukkah, and we're going to see it ends up being a very practical question that comes up quite often as we're going to see the sugya develop. So the sugya begins, the sugya of on Daf Chav Vav Amud Aleph. The Gemara says the following: Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis taught, Holchei Drachim Bayom. That let's say people are traveling during the daytime on Sukkos. So if you're traveling during the day, so that means you don't have a sukkah. If you don't have a sukkah, what are you supposed to do? So can you eat? Can you not eat? What's the story? So Peturim in a sukkah biyom. Says the Gemara, if you're traveling during the day, so then you don't have to sit in the sukkah. Let's say you wanted to eat lunch. You could eat lunch on the road, and you don't have to worry about the fact that you don't have a sukkah. However, at night, once you're done traveling, so then you are obligated to have a sukkah. Let's say you travel at night. Same pattern, the opposite way. If you're traveling at night, so you're putter at night. However, during the day, you'd be obligated. So let's say you're traveling for the full 24-hour period. You're on a long journey over Sukkos, Chol Hamoed Sukkos, obviously. Peturim min hasukah. You are putter from the mitzvah of sukkah during that time. Bein bayom ubein balaya. The Gemara then goes into a similar halakha of holchem devar mitzvah. Let's say I'm not traveling.
You're up, right?
However, what was that?
Isn't that there's a story when they visit their Rav?
Exactly. So yeah. They not only are they they're not just traveling, they're on their way to go do a mitzvah. So then Peturim bein bayom bein v'layla. So then also you have a Petur of mitzvahs. This is based on the concept of osik b'mitzvah pater mitzvah. Gihad Rav Chizda b'Rabba bar Rav Huna gihavu ayla b'shabasa deragla lebereish gelusa, that they went, they went for Shabbos Chol Moed in order to go visit the Reish Galusa. Havu Ganu Arkisa de Sura, that they went and slept in by the riverside of Sura. Amri Anan Shulche Mitzvah Anan U Peturin. That they said we don't have to sleep in a sukkah because we are Shluchei Mitzvah. We're on our way to go do a mitzvah, and therefore we are putter. So this concept of holchei drachim, people that are traveling, that they are putter from the mitzvah of sukkah. So what's that all about? Just because I'm traveling, I don't have to observe the mitzvah of eating or sleeping in the sukkah. So Rashi tells us the following: why is that the case, that I don't have to? Dichsev besukos teshvu, because the Torah says that you have to be teshvu, you have to dwell inside the sukkah. Ke'ein yeshivas beso, the same way that you reside in your home. Kishem shekol hashana eino nimnem melechas b'derech b'schora, that during the rest of the year you travel in order to go work. So you leave your home all the time. You probably spend most of your days outside the home than inside the home, and then therefore, kach kol yemos hachag, so too the entire days of Sukkos. She'eno yom tov lo hitzrichu hakasav limnoa. So then, therefore, why should the Torah prevent me from having my regular life? The Torah says besukos teshvu, that I'm supposed to dwell in the sukkah Teishvu ke'ein taduru, says the Gemara. I'm supposed to dwell in the sukkah the same way I dwell in my house. Well, I don't spend my entire time in my house. I go out to other places. And therefore, and I have my meals in those other places, and therefore it should be no different. Sometimes I go on a business trip and I have to go sleep in a hotel, and therefore, if that's the case, then during Sukkot as well, since the Torah says that the Sukkah is supposed to turn into my dwelling place, and therefore it's Teshvu ke'ein taduru. The same way I live in my house is the way I live in my sukkah. The same way I approach my house is the way I approach my sukkah. Sometimes I don't sleep at home. Sometimes I don't sleep in my sukkah. Sometimes I don't eat at home. Sometimes I don't eat in my sukkah. Tosfos over here comes along and says something very similar to Rashi. He says, Kol ze nafka miteshu kein taduru. He says the same thing as Rashi in the beginning, that this is all learned from the concept of you have to treat a sukkah like your home. That a person does not prevent themselves from going out into the world, going out onto the road while they are living at home. So too, you don't have to prevent yourself when living in a sukkah. However, Tosfos takes this a step further. He says, "V'chein mitzta'er." The same would apply to a mitzta'er, that someone who is burdened by being in the sukkah. The Gemara says that a mitzta'er, someone who it's very, very difficult for them to be in the sukkah. Let's say a person is elderly and it's too difficult for you to sit outside, let's say in the cold. Let's say it's cold on Sukkot, or that's the reason why if it's raining, you don't sit in the sukkah, because it's mitzta'er, that's burdensome. And mitzta'er is pater min hasukkah, the patru le'el min hasukkah, that such a person would not have to sit in the sukkah. Why? Because hainu miteshu kein taduru. This comes from the same concept, that if the roof in my house had a leak in it, and it's leaking from the ceiling into my soup, so I'm going to move. I'm going to go eat somewhere else. I'll probably go sit outside or something, right? I'm not going to, if my dining room starts to flood, I'm going to leave, right? So the same would be for your sukkah. The ein adam dar b'makom shemitzta'er, because a person does not live in a place where they are uncomfortable. Tosfos equates this to a holchei drachim, someone traveling. It's the same idea. When we take a look at the Ritva, however, has a different understanding of this whole patur of holchei drachim. The Ritva writes the following. The Ritva writes, holchei lidvar mitzvah paturim bein bayom u bein balayla. Perish. Says the Ritva, he explains, Kishu be'inyan she'im ya'akfu leishe b'sukkah shema ira lahem bittul b'mitzvah. Says the Ritva, he completely equates holchei drachim to holchei dvar mitzvah. Basically, unless you have a very good excuse, like it might prevent you from fulfilling a mitzvah, then that would be the only reason why you would not be able to sit. You would be exempt from having to sit in the sukkah, from eat in the sukkah, from sleep in the sukkah. However, anything short of that, there's no patur. You have a mitzvah to do. You have a mitzvah to sleep, to besukos teishvu shivas yamim, to sit in the sukkah, to dwell in the sukkah for 7 days. It's not the same thing as your home exactly. It's ke'ein taduru, in the similar way. Basically, if you're mitzta'er, if it's very difficult for you, so that you're going to end up leaving your house, so therefore you can end up leaving the sukkah. If your house starts to flood, your sukkah starts to flood, so then you're going to leave. However, to get up and just you're traveling just stam for no reason, you're not going for a dvar mitzvah, so then what gives you the right to eat or sleep outside the sukkah? Once you're going for a dvar mitzvah, okay, so then osik b'mitzvah, pater min mitzvah. In fact, the Ritva actually takes that whole concept of osik b'mitzvah, pater min mitzvah, to say you are not allowed to do another mitzvah if you are osik in one mitzvah. If you're doing one mitzvah, you're not allowed to. The Ram paskins the same way. So then, therefore, says the Ritva, anything short of that, of course you have to go into the sukkah. unless you're going for a mitzvah. And that's why the Gemara equates the two. When you look back at the Gemara turns it into one sugya. It's Tana Rabbanan. The rabbis taught. Where'd the Gemara go? Tana Rabbanan. Holchei drachim. And then the Gemara says the same thing. It says holchen dvar mitzvah, those going on to a mitzvah. And the Gemara seems to equate them, that it's based on the same concept. Comes along, it seems to bring it as a new case, but it's part of the same brisa, and the Ritva interprets it as this all being the same halacha, that it must be that it's just simply a osek b'mitzvah, pater min ha-mitzvah. That is the opinion of the Ritva. How do we paskin halacha l'maisa?
The Ritva is paskening, or is he giving you a hashkafic outlook? Like, don't go running.
Paskening.
Okay.
Yeah, paskening. So the question then, what we're gonna address, what the poskim address, is basically two questions, which is, what would come out according to the Ritva, which the Ritva is similar to Tosos in his definition of Teishvu Ke'in Taduru. That Teishvu Ke'in Taduru is really limited to mitzdayer, that someone is really, really just very uncomfortable, that it's really a trouble to be in the sukkah. But anything short of that, you have an obligation to eat and sleep in the sukkah. So if that's the case, let's say a person is out, traveling. So are they obligated to build a makeshift sukkah? I'm sure that we've all seen these pictures that go around over sukkahs, where people figure out a way to build a sukkah using the doors of their car. Right? You open up two doors of your car and using dofen akuma of your roof connected to the other side. You put schach between the two doors. You take a chair and you sit and you eat your sandwich in the parking lot of SeaWorld or something like that, right? So is that a necessity? Does someone have to build themselves a sukkah wherever they go on sukkahs, or is that not an obligation? So it seems to be that this is a machlokes between the Levush and the Magen Avram. The Levush in Orach Chaim Simin Taf Reish Mem writes the following. He says, where did the Shulchan Aruch go? Did we not see the Shulchan Aruch? Okay, we didn't see the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch paskins that holchei drachim are pater min hasukah. Comes along the Levush and he writes the following. He says, V'im lan b'makom goyim. Let's say you're in a place where there isn't a sukkah, she'im sham sukkah, o b'sadeh, or let's say you're in a field. Pater gam b'layla, says the Levush, you don't have to build yourself a sukkah. V'in sarch la'asos lo sham sukkah l'dira. You don't have to build yourself a sukkah. She'ein lecha torech v'tzar gadol mizeh. That would be a tremendous tsar, right? Says the Levush that's not teishvu ke'ein taduru. Basically, that the Torah tells us besukos teishvu shivas yamim. You have to dwell in the sukkah for 7 days. Teishvu ke'ein taduru. In the same way you sit in your house, in the same way you have to approach the sukkah. Let's say I leave my house for a little bit. So I know I'm going to be gone for a certain amount of time. I'm going to need some food or something like that. So what do? I grab a couple of protein bars, or I make myself a sandwich, and I pack a to-go lunch. If I don't build myself a dwelling place every time I eat something. That would be a tremendous tsar. That would create tremendous pain in order to do that, and therefore that's a patur of mitzdayer, which is an application of teishvu kein taduru. That it's something that is going to give me pain, and therefore that's not equivalent to dwelling in your home. He says that it would be tremendous sorrow if that was an obligation to do. However, comes along the Magen Avram and he argues with the Levush. The Magen Avram writes the following. He says, "Mashma detzarech la'aslo sham sukkah." Says the Magen Avram that certainly you would have to build yourself a sukkah where you go. V'alavush kasav and he quotes the lavush. He says the lavush says that you don't have to. De ein chayav la'asos sham sukkah ben ha'akum, that you wouldn't have to build a sukkah. V'chein kasav beis Yosef b'shem Orchos Chaim de ein potrin ella kishalon b'derech b'makom she'ein yeshuv ayin sham. And this is the way that the Orchos Chaim paskins as well. But the Magen Avraham thinks that for sure you would have to build a sukkah wherever you go, because there's an obligation of basukos teishvu shivas yamim. I think that there's a couple ways maybe to understand this machlokas. The post can point out a couple different ways to understand it. Number one, it could be that it really gets the heart of core of how you define teishvu ke'en taduru. That when the Torah says besukos teishvu shivas yamim, is that there's an obligation to dwell in your sukkah, and that once you're dwelling in your sukkah, it needs to be ke'en taduru. But you can never put yourself in a scenario where there is no sukkah to dwell in. Meaning, of course, I have to have a sukkah. That's not even a question. And now, once the sukkah exists, I need to approach it the way that I approach my house. So which is why when it starts to rain or it's very uncomfortable, so fine, then that's not ke'en taduru. But of course I need to be teishvu. I need to make sure that it's there. Or do you say, no, teishvu ke'en taduru, we take it to the nth degree. It's mamash ke'en taduru. I treat it exactly the same way as my house. And I'm not always at home. And therefore, when I'm not at home, I will eat outside of my home. I'll sleep outside of my home. How do we define teishvu ke'en taduru? Is it pashit that I need a sukkah, but then once I have a sukkah, then I approach it in the same way that it's taduru? Or is the ikar taduru? That I need to dwell, and I need to dwell in the same way I would dwell inside my house. Yeah.
Taduru means dwell?
What was that?
You keep saying taduru. I know what teishu is, but what does taduru mean?
Taduru means to in the way that I teishu means to sit, meaning to reside. Taduru would mean in the way that I live in it, that the way that I'd be accustomed to it, right? So the same way that I treat my home is the way that I would have to treat my sukkah. Yeah. So how do we define that? Is it that I have to make sure that there is a sukkah for me to figure out how to approach it? Or is it that really the same way I approach my home is the way I approach the whole concept of sukkah in general, and therefore I don't need to always make sure that there's a sukkah available, right? So that seems to be the machlokas between the Magen Avraham and the Lavush. Another way of interpreting this machlokas between the Magen Avraham and the Lavush potentially is whether or not I'm allowed to be machnis myself. I'm allowed to put myself into a situation where I don't have the ability to fulfill a mitzvah. Okay? That if I put myself in a situation where I am not able to fulfill a mitzvah, is that okay to do? So according to the Lavush, it would seem like, yes, that's okay to do. According to the Magen Avraham, I'm never allowed to do that, and therefore I'd have to build myself a sukkah wherever I go. Because I'm not allowed to put myself in a scenario where I don't have the ability to fulfill a mitzvah. Okay. And therefore, if I'm going to be going to a place where that's not an option, sorry, can't go.
There's a positive mitzvah, like you.
Positive mitzvah, yeah. So Rav Moshe Feinstein, the Igros Moshe, and Or Chaim Chelek Gimel Simin Sadi Gimel deals with a question. The question he writes right over here is Im muter latzeis l'ta'anug ba'alma l'makom shelo yeh lo sukkah. Basically, dealing with the question of Chol HaMoed trips. That is, one allowed to go on a Chol HaMoed trip, or they're allowed to go spend the day at SeaWorld or at the zoo, knowing that they are not going to have a sukkah available. What is the halacha? So take a look at the holy words of Rav Moshe Feinstein. He writes the following: U'b'davar latzeis l'tiyul u'tanug ba'alma l'makom shelo yeh lo sukkah. that let's say you want to go to a place where you know you're not going to have a sukkah, mitstaber lani asdaiti, says Rav Moshe, she'aser, it's completely aser, the holche drachim. She'isya b'sukkah daf chavav, kishehu lidvar harashush shebeturin al kopanim, b'yom hu kisheholchen limsacher, ukiyotze, that he's going to work, something like that. Shu tzorech mamish, that's a necessity. That the only time that the Gemara allows it is if you're going mamish for a necessity. Remember, that's exactly what Rashi said. Rashi said this right over here. Rashi said that yeshivas beiso kishem shekol hashana eno nimna melechas baderach bischora, for work, for business. See, you have to have a real necessity. You're not just going stam for fun. If you're going stam for fun, certainly that would be a problem. The Im Kain says, Rav Moshe, Lama Amar Rava mitztar pater min hasukah havale lomar mishenan leishev bechater yoser mebayis hasukah pater min hasukah pater min hasukah. He says Rav Moshe, because let's say if that was true, that I'd be allowed to go on Chol Hamoed trips to a place where I wouldn't have a sukkah, so then why would Rava need to come up with this whole concept of mitztayer? Someone who's uncomfortable in the sukkah. Then you're able to leave the sukkah. What if I just enjoy eating inside more than I enjoy eating in the sukkah? So it's the same thing as going on a Chol Hamoed trip, no?
The kitchen.
What?
Your trip to the kitchen.
My trip to the kitchen. I'm enjoying myself. I much prefer. It's much more comfortable in my house, and therefore I should be able to use that excuse. I'm going on a Chol Hamoed trip inside to my bedroom. I want to go sleep in my comfy bed. All right? So that says Rav Moshe, that's ridiculous. The Gemara makes it seem like, no, you have to be mitztayer, like Tosas equated holchei drachim to a tsar, or like Rashi said, schora, not for just stam. So then therefore, Rav Moshe doesn't see a possibility of being able to go on Chol Hamoed trips, and then he also uses the idea of he quotes from the Gemara Menachos of that there's a curse for someone who prevents themselves from fulfilling a mitzvah. This is the opinion of Rav Moshe Feinstein. In another tshuva, in a later tshuva, Rav Moshe uses some more reasoning why he feels the same way, that there'd be no way why one would be able to go out on these Chol Hamoed trips. He says, "Aval like Havanoso le'echad mechutz la'aretz sheba al zman katzer le'Eretz Yisrael shekol tircha hagdola v'hotzah hagdola haisa b'shvil sherotza liros kol Eretz Yisrael ve'ein lo al zeh rak yamim mu'atim she'ulai etzlo ha'makamos hu lo tzar gadol shelachein." He points he gives another case. Let's say someone is visiting from Chutz La'aretz, from America to Israel, and during that time they want to be able to appreciate Eretz Yisrael as much as possible. So they want to be able to go on these trips in order to see all the different parts of Eretz Yisrael, from the north to the south, the east to the west, all the different parts of Eretz Yisrael. They want to be able to appreciate the Holy Land of Israel. So such a case, if there's no other time to do it, fine, Rav Moshe can understand why there would be some leniency there. That's what we said. That would be like the Dvar Mitzvah, or for going for business. That's something meaningful. That's something necessary. Stam, to go to SeaWorld, and you're not going to be able to have a sukkah there, so then that would be a problem. Which is why, based on that, you'll find most people, when they go to places on sukkahs that don't have a sukkah available, so usually they'll bring shahakol things or fruits, veggies. They'll bring things that you're able to eat outside the sukkah anyway, to be machmer for this opinion of Rav Moshe. Rav Ovadia Yosef,
you can't eat like mazonot or sleep outside, but if you go to this park, it's fine. It's just you shouldn't be doing things that you would be obligated to do in a sukkah.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's Rav Moshe's point. Yeah. That if you're going to end up being stuck, that either you're going to have to eat something that is a mazonos, or you're going to end up sleeping overnight somewhere, that Rav Moshe thinks is a problem. Rav Ovadia, though, points out, he thinks that the pashtus, the halacha, follows the levush, and the Chai Adam. Says Rabbi Yosef in Yechavadas Chel Gimel Sim Mem Zayin. He says Nimsa Sha Iker LaHalacha, that the way we paskin really is Kedivr HaLavush VaChai Adam Hanal. That really is like the Chai Adam and the Lavush. And the Orchas Chaim, we already saw the Beis Yosef quotes the Orchas Chaim, also following this same approach like the Lavush. However, comes along Rabbi and he says, "Amnam adayin yesh makom lomar shelo hetiru chachamim lahafkia atzmo mechiyav mitzvah sukkah." However, that doesn't mean that one has the ability to completely uproot themselves from the mitzvah of sukkah. Again, the Lavush was talking about that if someone, let's say, goes to work and then they find themselves in a place without a sukkah, so then one would be allowed to have their sandwich. However, to go out of your way in order to put yourself in a scenario where you won't be able to fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah, he says, "Sheyesh bazeh tzas tzorach mitzvah," and there needs to be a little bit of a tzorach mitzvah. Says, and he quotes Rav Moshe Feinstein. He says, "V'chein kasav be'emes hagaon." Rav Moshe Feinstein. This way, Rav Moshe paskins, and we saw that sheyesh le'asor tiyul b'chol hamoed sukkos mitam zeh, going on chol hamoed trips and putting yourself in a situation where you would have to do sukkah-esque things in that place is problematic. Based on this concept of, number one, putting yourself in a scenario where you are going to be uprooting a mitzvah. And aside for that, even if we paskin like the Lavush and the Chai Adam against the Magen Avraham, that's only still if there's some sort of a tzorech. However, comes along Rav Pomeranchik in the Emek Bracha. Rav Pomeranchik was one of the star pupils of the Brisker Rav, and he points out something fascinating. He says that no matter what, you're going to end up being stuck. Both according to the Magen Avraham and according to the Lavush, you're going to end up being stuck. Because let's say a person goes not on, let's say, a Chol HaMoed trip. Let's say a person goes to work, okay? And they want to be able to have lunch. So what are you going to do? So you're going to build yourself a sukkah. That's called building on Chol HaMoed, right? Which is permissible if it's Litzorach HaMoed. But we don't even know if it's Litzorach HaMoed because we might paskin like the Lavush. Meaning we have a Sfeika Dedina. We're not sure how do we paskin. We paskin like the Lavush, which you would not be, you don't have to build the sukkah, or do you paskin like the Magen Avraham that you're obligated to build the sukkah? So if we paskin like the Lavush, not only would one not have to build a sukkah, says Rav Pomeranchik, one would be usher to build a sukkah because it's Chol HaMoed, and Chol HaMoed has an Isur Malacha associated with it. You're not allowed to do excessive labor on Chol HaMoed unless it's necessary for the yontif. But according to the Lavush, it's not necessary. So it comes along Rav Pomeranchik to say no matter what, you're going to end up being stuck because it's a Sfeika Dedina. So
it's not a deraisa, we go to Chumrah.
And therefore, that's exactly what he says. So therefore, we have to be machmer both ways.
Because
right?
of the fact that Chumrah, you can't do work. So that's okay.
Yeah, so we have to be machmer both ways. Meaning, we have to be machmer for the mitzvah of yeshiva b'sukkah, but we also have to be machmer for the Isur Malacha on Chol HaMoed, right? So basically, says the Emek Bracha, if you're in such a scenario, definitely you do not build a sukkah. Certainly not, he says, based on his logic of that it's going to end up being potentially building on Chol HaMoed for no purpose. And rather, we would follow the Lavush, saying that you don't have to build a sukkah, but that better to stay away from involving yourself in sukkah-esque things. However, it's more of a lumdus, not necessarily a psak halacha, legamre. We saw from Rav Moshe and from Rav Ovadia that one would be allowed to, let's say, have their lunch at work during sukkahs, being that you don't have the ability to build a sukkah, and that's a legitimate reason to have to be outside the sukkah. And this is exactly what Rav Elyashiv paskins. Also, Rav Elyashiv paskins that it's mutter l'tayal l'tanug ba'alma, that it's mutter to go out on a trip even, says Rav Elyashiv. However, he says that it's not the ikar b'hashkafa, it's not a proper thing to do because you're going to end up missing out on a mitzvah. But in those scenarios, like Chol Hamoed trips, we would recommend that you would just bring along things that don't require a sukkah for you to sit in. But if going to work, it's you don't have enough of those types of foods to last you throughout the workday or something like that. Or let's say a person has to go on some sort of a business trip, or they're traveling over Chol Hamoed. This is a question that comes up all the time, where someone has a flight scheduled during Chol Hamoed. Number one, is one allowed to schedule that flight? And number two, once I'm on the flight, am I allowed to go to sleep? Am I allowed to have mizonos? What's the halacha? So we saw from Rav Moshe that if it's for something legitimate, so then the answer is yes, that it's not a problem. And Rav Ovadia as well, and Rav Elyashiv and Rav Pomeranchik said, just make sure that you definitely don't build the sukkah, because it's a sveika dedina, and it would be a suffix d'oraisa l'chumra.
What about a pop-up sukkah? Does that count as building?
So I think no, that would count as malacha on Chol Hamoed, I think.
Even like it's almost no tchecha.
Yeah, because it is the malacha of building unnecessarily. Yeah.
So it's not building. It's not considered like.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the pop-up sukkahs.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a shiloh whether or not they're kosher in the first place, and then even so. What?
I didn't know it was with shiloh. So you should know my sons hold by Rav Moshe, because when they were in preschool, it's my favorite thing. One of my favorite things. They went to a birthday party at a park.
Yeah.
They refused to eat. They were like 3 and 4, and they refused to eat the birthday cake.
That's awesome.
There was no sukkah.
That's gewaldig. I knew they were tzaddikim. I won't hold it to them that they're not here tonight, though. That's awesome. All right, we'll end with some divrei Aggadah. The Gemara tells us in Mesechta Sukkah, just another 2 blot later, on Daf Chav Ches, the Gemara tells us about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Amru alav al Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. The Gemara says the following: Miyama, that throughout his life, this is his reputation. It's unbelievable. Lo sach sichas kulin. He never once spoke idle speech. He never was shooting the breeze about mundane things. V'lo halach dalad amos below Torah below tefillin. He never walked 4 amos without learning Torah, wearing tefillin. V'lo kadmu adam bebeis hamedrash. No one ever got to the beis hamedrash before him. V'lo yisham bebeis hamedrash. He never fell asleep while learning in the beis hamedrash. V'lo shenes keva v'lo shenes arai. Not even a quick cat nap. Nothing. He wouldn't think Torah when he was in dirty places, because the Torah says, kadosh, as the Gemara tells us in Shabbos and Daf Kufnun Aleph, that he never left anyone in the base medrash, meaning he was always the last one there. V'lo matzu adam yoshev v'domem. And no one ever found him sitting alone. Ela Yoshev Vishona, he was always learning. He was never silent. V'lo patach adam delis the talmidav elahu the atzmo. That he would open the door for himself. V'lo, no one ever did anything for him. V'lo amar davar shelo shamam pirabo ma'olam. Everything he would teach was part of a Masorah. V'lo amar higia es la'amod mebeis hamedrash. He would never say that, oh, okay, Seder's over, it's time for lunch, time for dinner. He would just stay. He would just stay in the Beis Medrash. Chutz me'Arei Pesachim ve'Arei Yom Kippurim. The only day that he would ever leave the Beis Medrash a little early was on Erev Pesach and Erev Yom Kippur, because he had to hurry home for the Pesach Seder and Erev Yom Kippur, in order so that he could hurry home for the Su'uda HaMafsekas. This is the reputation of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, as is recorded in the Gemara in Sukkah on Daf Chav Tes. Sounds impressive, it sounds unbelievable, sounds superhuman, which is why it makes the next Gemara we're going to see so strange. The Gemara in Brachos, on Daf also Chav Ches, the Daf of Koach. The Gemara tells us about when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai fell ill. and the students went to go visit their Rebbe. That the students went to go see him. Kivin Shara Osam. When Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai saw them, his lavkos, he started to cry. Why did he cry? So the Gemara gives first a long reason why he was crying. And then he says, V'lo od, and not only that, Elishiyesh lifanai shnei drachim. I'm staring at two paths in front of me. Acha shel gan Eden v'acha shel Gehenim. I'm staring at heaven and I'm staring at hell. The ein yodea be'eza molchem oti, and I don't know which one they're going to send me to. V'lo efke. So what, I'm not going to cry? How could it be? I'm not going to cry. I'm staring at heaven and hell in front of me. I don't know where I'm going to end up. We're talking about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai over here. We literally just saw his reputation that he didn't waste a second of his life in anything that wasn't religious pursuits, that wasn't Torah pursuits, that wasn't godly pursuits. How was it a suffix in his mind? How did he even have a sveka that he was going straight to Gan Eden? So Rav Ruderman Zatzal, the founding Rosh Yeshiva of Ner Yisrael, answered as follows. Rav Ruderman said that Ruderman says the following in the Sichas Avodas Levi. He says, "V'nira shezeh ba'atzmo haya hasiba lahafchid v'acharada." That we can understand why Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was so nervous. Shai bevade Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai yada ba'atzmo es kochos nafsho, because we understood Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai from his reputation. But there's one person who did not agree with this Gemara in Sukkah. There's one person who read this Gemara in Sukkah and thought to themselves, no, that's not Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Who was the one that read this and said, nah, it's not Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai? That's Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. That when you learn about yourself the way that people think, oh, he's such a great tzaddik, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is looking at this and he's thinking to himself, what are you talking about? Of course I've wasted time before. You don't think I've ever wasted a second of my life? You don't think that I could have had one more second of Kedusha? I know myself. I know how much I push myself. And therefore, because Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai understood himself, even though he reached many rungs on the ladder in his life, reaching high levels, because maybe he thought to himself, I could have reached a little higher. And that's why he was crying. He was crying when he fell ill. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know if I'm going to heaven. I'm going to go to hell, because who knows? Even one small opportunity I could have missed. Maybe that was the breaking point. As Reb Dessler writes, Reb Dessler says that we all have our nekudas habechira. This is basic Judaism 101. That we all have a threshold of schar va'onesh. That a kid born in the middle of Yehupitzville, Indiana.
I teach that at Rabbi. It's one of my favorite ideas.
It's yesod. It's fundamental.
Yeah.
That it's almost like the way I like to think about it, both l'ra and l'tova. Meaning, the way I like to think about it is you take the kid in Indiana, okay, born into barely even knows that he's Jewish, right? And you expect that kid to be shomer Shabbos, kashrus, to learn through Shas Bavli, Yerushalmi, Rambam, Sifrei Sifra. Well, come on. But then you take a kid born in Bnei Brak, who was born into a home of tzaddikim, that was raised with love and care, all surrounded around Kedusha, went into the right yeshivas, was born with the right intellect, and just everything set up for him. So one kid's destined for greatness, and the other kid is destined for nothingness. It's not fair. It's cruel. So no, it must be, says Rav Dessler, no, we're judged based on who we are. We all have our nekudas habechira. For the kid in Bnei Brak, it could be that his nekudas habechira is not to be shomer kashrus and Shabbos. That's pashut. It's not even to learn Torah. It's probably to make sure that he doesn't battle for a second. Whereas the kid in Indiana, it's to come to understand a little bit more about his heritage. To understand, and then once he reaches that, he goes to the next nekudas bechira, and he keeps pushing himself. This is exactly what we say in the piyut of Yigdal. We say in Yigdal, no sein leish chesed kimifalo, that we give to a person, according to their righteousness. God gives chesed, He gives reward according to righteousness. V'notzein l'rasha ra kirisha asoi, and He gives wicked according to wickedness. But that's actually not what the words mean. That's what the concept means. That's not what the words mean. No sein leish chesed, that God gives kindness. What's the word kimifalo? Mifalo means effort. Doesn't mean, it should have said ki chasidato. He gives kindness according to their kindnesses, according to what they do, or ki tzidkato, according to their righteousness. That's not what it says, though. It says kimifalo, according to how much you try, according to how much you're trying to break through your nekudas habechira. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai understood his nekudas habechira a lot more than we did. And that's why you'll have Gedolim pushing themselves. Like Rav Shechter always says about Rav Ovadia Yosef. Rav Ovadia Yosef says Rav Shechter would have been the Gadol Hador even if he learned 3 hours a day. He still would have been the Gadol Hador. He still would have been the biggest Talmud Chacham in the generation, no question about it. What made Rav Ovadia a real Gadol is the fact that he learned 18 hours a day. He pushed himself even though he didn't need to technically in order to become a powerhouse in Torah knowledge, breadth, and depth. Because that he had a nekudas habechira that he needed to push through. And that's what creates true Gedolim. True godless is pushing through nekudas habechira at each of our levels. All right, we'll stop here.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.